800 Americans of African descent arrived in Egypt for a 2-week tour of the Nile Valley. This was the largest such group thus far to ever visit Africa, and it made the headlines in Egypt. Yet, it was more than a tourist event. While seeing the remnants of the ancient Nile civilization, the group would hear lectures giving a rare perspective about a culture that most history had misrepresented. The lectures would come from an accompanying group of African-American historians who were also there for their organization's conference that the tour group sat in on. This reporter was part of this 2-week experience, and this is the first of our 3-part special report that we call Return to the Nile Valley. For most of those who had come, the focus of attention was Professor Joseph Ben Jekinen, who everyone called Dr. Ben, and Professor John Henry Clarke. Most in the tour group had come as a result of a lecture they had heard or a book they had read by either of these two men. Many of the historians who were here had also had their attention on Africa focused by Drs. Ben and Clarke.
In '68, when I got here, I became aware of Dr. Clarke and Dr. Ben. I'd heard of both of them before, but I met them in early '69, I believe, and they had a tremendous impact on me, but I didn't get a chance to interact with them on a regular basis, and it was not until '75 when I met Diop that I was able to go day after day after day and get reprimanded and lectured to and so forth and so on. But no, Ben and John were right there from the beginning. And
Dr. Ben, along with Dr. Clarke and others, have been to the mountaintop. They looked over to the other side. And then they've been yelling and screaming to those of us down in the valley to come up to the mountaintop and see for yourself. Many of us have been able to work our way up and stand at their sides and see for ourselves. But too many of us are in the valley, lost, and we cannot see what is on the other side. Alone, they have changed the whole of history. They've destroyed the big lie. They've created a new concept of African self, a new concept of African consciousness.
History books have not always clearly depicted the Egyptian civilization as being explicitly African. In addition, the U.S. movie industry has depicted the people of ancient Egypt explicitly as white.
You will have to speak for yourself, physician.
Not for myself, sire, but for one whose memory you've tried to wipe out, whose very name you've sought to destroy, for Akhenaten.
Do you flaunt your treason in my face? That name is forbidden.
For decades, Professor Ben Jekinen has been offering loudly another perspective of ancient Egyptian history. In fact, during the last 10-year period, Dr. Ben appeared on Like It Is several times, presenting his perspective on ancient Egypt.
My priority is the Africans along the Nile. And the reason for that is, if we deal with the Africans along the Nile, we will be dealing with those people who originally produced the foundation for what is today Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and Greek philosophy, among other things. What I am saying, were it not for the Africans along the Nile, there would be no God Jehovah, no God Jesus, no God Allah, and no such thing as Greek philosophy. For example, to say that Moses, who was born in Africa, a place called Goshen in Egypt, got the first set of moral laws from a God which would be not before, at best, 1346 when Moses was born, and it couldn't be then, those so-called 10 commandments, that those 10 commandments plus 32 more were already in African writings, such as the Book of the Dead, the Osirian Drama, that the concept of monotheism didn't come from Moses, as taught in the synagogue and the mosque and the church, but in fact, it preceded Moses for hundreds of years, thousands of years, and at least taught by a man called Amenhotep IV or Akhenaten in terms of the god Atum. The concept of a virgin birth, that of Mary becoming pregnant by an immaculate conception, giving birth to her son, Horus, by this virgin birth, 4,100 years before the Mary-Joseph story, Jesus story, The Africans had already thought about this in the person of Isis becoming pregnant by Immaculate Conception and giving birth to her virgin son, Horus.
What's your name?
Omar Nobles,
Omar. How old are you?
17.
17. Where are you in school?
I just graduated from McClimbers High School in Oakland, California.
Oh, really? What are you doing out here?
This was a graduation present for my parents.
A graduation? That's kind of unusual, isn't it?
Well, no, my parents believe in to pass on the legacy to the family, I guess. So basically, they came back to Kemet about maybe 10 years ago and felt that this was something that they had to pass on to me and to my 3 sisters. So basically, as each of us graduate, we will be given a portfolio with a message from my parents.
A portfolio? Is this it here?
Yes.
The pages are blank.
It's a diary for me to journalize.
Uh-huh. What was your reaction when your father gave you this ticket?
I was shocked and nervous and worried, and I mean, all these emotions hit me at one time. It was kind of stunning.
Apprehensive too? Were you somewhat resistant?
No, I've seen pictures and slides and heard about Dr. Ben and his works in ancient Egyptian studies. So basically, that part excited me because I was kind of curious into meeting this man for myself.
There's a saying that youngsters know it all. They got it all figured out, this thing called life. Were you part of that cadre?
In some ways. In terms of, parental advice, in terms of hourly going out and, oh, Mom, I should be home by such and such. Well, that's kind of late. Oh, Mom, I can handle myself in the streets. I'm not worried about these people, but you always have to be a little bit comprehensive anyway.
Your father wrote something on the end page here, the inside of the cover. Could you read that?
It says, Dear Omar, your mother and I thought that this trip to Kemet would be the best graduation present we could give you. We wanted to give you the gift of visiting in person, seeing with your own eyes, and knowing for yourself the greatness that belongs to you and our people. The significance of your graduation is that it marks the time that you personally start to make your own mark in history. There is nothing that you can't do or become as long as you believe in yourself, your family, your race, and your God. Look at what we, black people, did. Know what we can do and decide what you will become. You belong to greatness. African blessings and love. Your parents, Wade and Vera Nobles, Ptah Hotep, 6/29/87.
What does that mean to you?
That my parents could probably the best parents ever in the world. My father's, I don't know, it's like he sees all these things ahead of me that I really didn't pay much attention to. And he knows more about my greatness than I did for myself. And after being in the black land, I started to see for myself that it's about time I get on the road and do for myself.
Do you think there are any limits to what you can do or be?
After seeing the pyramids and Ramses too, there is no limit to anything.